be judged on my ability to deal with it. And the work of change has begun.
Here we are again. Today, Starmer gave a speech in an attempt to relaunch his government. Considering it's only been 6 months since he was handed a significant mandate by the country, it's rather curious. Starmer's speech was full of vague ambitions but light on detail. This continues a pattern of broken promises. From raising taxes to cutting winter fuel payments for pensioners, Starmer has already gone back on several key manifesto commitments. The truth is, most people in this country never wanted him as Prime Minister. They were simply fed up with Rishi Sunak and thought anyone would be better in the role. How wrong they were. Keir Starmer is 10 times worse than Sunak ever was. There are clear signs that many who voted Labour in the general election are now suffering from what's often called buyer's remorse. They've bought something on installment, so to speak, and realize they can't easily afford the payments. Worse still, they're not even sure they want the product anymore. At first glance, there seems little to be done. The electorate signed a binding contract and are now stuck with the product for the next 5 years, even though it's proven defective and unfit for purpose. If only they'd read the fine print more carefully. There's nothing to be done now. We've got to wait until the next general election in 2029 to put things right and get out of this dreadful deal. Or do we? Before we get started, I'd like to ask for your support. This channel is my way of sharing honest and important conversations with people like you, and your encouragement means everything to me. In a moment, I'll be offering a brief analysis and summary of today's speech by our dear Prime Minister. If you find value in what we're doing here, take a second to like this video. It takes less than a moment, but makes a huge difference. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join our growing community and stay informed. I'd also love to hear your thoughts, so share your opinion in the comments below. I genuinely want to know what you think. Be the change you want to see in the world. It helps keep these discussions alive. Let's get started. Looking over to France, we see a country currently in chaos. Their Prime Minister has fallen after only a few months in office, since September, to be precise. He's been in power for an even shorter time than our own illustrious leader. This is quite promising. Of course, the French political system is vastly different from ours, but the fact that a neighboring country can descend into such a crisis, largely over immigration, is intriguing, to say the least. It's the rise of Marine Le Pen that's driving the turmoil engulfing France. Could something similar happen in Britain? Naturally, thoughts turn to Nigel Farage and reform. They occupy a similar space in British politics to Marine Le Pen and her National Rally movement. It's an interesting idea, and I'm sure many in this country are thinking the same, watching events unfold in France and wondering if they could serve as a blueprint for bringing down a prime minister here. Right, so here's a quick rundown of the key points from the speech, and then I'll show you some footage for those who missed it.
Milestones. Measurable milestones. 1. Higher living standards in every region of the country as we target the highest sustained growth in the G7. So working people have more money in their pocket. The burden of the cost of living crisis no longer intruding on the joy of their family life. 2. Britain rebuilt with 1.5 million new homes. So the security I enjoyed when I was growing up, the base camp aspiration of home ownership, doesn't move further and further away from working class families like mine. 3. Safer streets. More police on the beat, stamping out antisocial behaviour in every community. Because nobody should feel insecure in the streets that they call home. 4. The best start in life for every child, with a record proportion of 5-year-olds starting school ready to learn. Because it's a scandal, an affront to the British value of equal respect, if we do not give every child, whatever their background, a fair chance to succeed. 5. Clean power by 2030. Homegrown British energy, making our country more secure. So never again can a tyrant like Putin attack the living standards of working people. Waiting lists in our NHS cut. The 18-week target from referral to treatment finally met. A symbol of the NHS back on its feet, facing the future, dignity and care restored to millions.
And now, to the glaring issue. Starmer has previously claimed he wouldn't let the British people down on immigration, but today's speech barely addressed it. He had to be pressed by journalists to even mention the topic, and when he did, it was all vague promises with no concrete proposals.
I want to follow up on Chris's question because I'm a bit confused. You say migration in this country under the Tories is unforgivable. You said borders are one of your top 2 priorities. You put tackling small boats into your mission promises before the election, adding it to your 5 missions. And yet on the banners behind you, there's nothing there. In the 6 milestones of measurement, there's nothing there. So you have not given the public one metric on which to measure you when it comes to migration. Is that because you fear failure, or is it because you said it was a priority to win, but actually it's not even in your top 6? Thank you.
No, Beth, the way we've constructed is that there are foundational things that a government must do. And they are based on security. So national security is obvious, but border security is equally obvious in my view. And that's why I've said we are committed to bringing down immigration, both legal and illegal. We must stop people crossing in boats across the Channel, and we have to get to grips with the volume of regular migration we have in this country. The statistics last week were shocking. Net migration of nearly 1 million, quadrupled in just 4 short years. It is the duty of government to bring that down. It is our duty to do it, and that's why I said it out in my speech, that that is what we would do, and we will do it. The missions are then the additional things that we want the government to do, the change that we want to bring about, and that's why we set them out in our manifesto. Each of the chapters in our manifesto was an example of how we would deliver that, and the plan for change then takes them forward with measurable milestones so that the public can see whether we're making the progress that we need to make in the missions. But the foundation is still the foundational stone on which this is built, which of course includes, as an integral part, border security.
The glaring omission of immigration as a priority is alarming, especially given the rising public concern. Despite Labour's rhetoric about taking immigration seriously, there's still no actionable plan. Illegal crossings continue to hit record highs, with asylum seekers putting immense strain on the system. Reports suggest it could take 5 years just to clear the current backlog, and things don't seem to be improving. The response to Starmer's relaunch has been scathing. Nigel Farage called the plan more of the same and a recipe for economic failure, while Rupert Lowe said Starmer is completely out of his depth as Prime Minister. Many see this so-called relaunch as nothing more than empty promises from a government unwilling or unable to tackle Britain's real challenges. Despite Labour's rhetoric about taking immigration seriously, there's still no actionable plan. Illegal crossings continue to hit record highs, with asylum seekers putting immense strain on the system. Reports suggest it could take 5 years just to clear the current backlog, and things don't seem to be improving. Failing to address immigration, a key issue for many British citizens, only reinforces Labour's disconnect from public sentiment. Starmer's reluctance to present a clear plan further undermines trust in his leadership.
And while I've got you, what's your response to the poll this morning that says half of voters, including lots of people who voted for you in July, think you're doing a bad job?
And look, Harry, on polls or anything else, I know what I was elected to do, which was to change the country for millions of people who desperately need change. I knew we had to do the hard yards early on, take the tough decisions early on. Anybody who's ever run a business or an organisation knows if you're going to change things, you don't identify a tough decision and say, I'll do it in a couple of years' time. You do it straight away. I'll be measured when we get to the next election by whether I've delivered on what I'm saying I'll do for the British public, and that is the plan that we've set out today, the measurables that we have chosen to put out there to be measured against. And I've chosen them because I think I'm convinced they're the change that the country needs and people need to feel. So thank you.
For those hoping today's speech would mark a turning point, it was a letdown. Labour's relaunch feels like recycled rhetoric with no real vision or accountability. Let us know your thoughts on Starmer's milestone missions in the comments below. Do you think Labour will deliver on these promises, or is this just another exercise in empty words? If you value the truth and want to stay informed, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and join us next time for more content about Britain. Take care, stay strong, and remember, together we are unstoppable.